Now then, as promised, I shall show you how to make an alcoholic drink very easily. The basic drink is not terribly alcoholic, but you can do one or two things that improve your chances as you go along. You need to make a culture first, lots of microorganisms that do all sorts of magic to sugar and turn it into alcohol. And they are to be found on this stuff, ginger. But in fact, you can make this so that it doesn't taste much like ginger or at all. So we start by grating a good handful of the stuff. And this is one I prepared earlier. And you add it together with half a cup full of ordinary sugar. White sugar is best, actually. And the same quantity of water, so it's roughly equal parts. You start with that on day one, add it again on day two, stirring it with something not metallic, like a chopstick, and then day 3, 4, and so on. And gradually you end up, I've got quite a large container of it now here, with something that bubbles and fizzes, and it's really quite exciting. It takes about a week, maybe a bit more, and you just add a little every day. And if you get too much of the stuff, then you can put it in the fridge to slow it down. You only need to do it once a week. So a bit of sugar, a bit more water, and then just dissolve it all in there. And you can see fizzing like blazes. You can probably see. Tilt it, I'll get it all over the counter, but it is fizzing like blazes. Hang on, we can do this. Oh. It smells wonderful, except if you don't like ginger. It doesn't smell wonderful at all. So that's your basic concoction, sometimes called a ginger bug. And they used it to make fizzy drinks with before carbon dioxide was injected into water to make them fizzy. Much better for you. They call it probiotics nowadays. Not a clue what that is, but there you go. So this, lid on loosely, just to avoid any explosions, will be used to make some booze with later on. So you've got your ginger beer bug, or ginger bug, bubbling away nicely. Next step, and this will produce a very slightly alcoholic but effervescent and relatively sweet ginger beer, is to grate some ginger, and I like quite a lot of ginger and a heavy ginger taste. Some people say it takes the skin off your tongue, but I quite like it. And I have a good solid handful there going into my pot. I then, on this occasion, fancied a lime, and they do say things like you should squeeze the lime and grate the peel, but I have not noticed any difference whatsoever if you just chop it up and then drop it in. Basically, you're making a tea. The idea is to add water, and I use 2 litre quantities. In other words, I either make 2 litres or 4 litres or 6 or whatever, and all my measurement and my brewing is done in these pop bottles. So I start off with 2 of these because I'm making 4 litres today, and I'm just using 1 very large lemon and a medium-sized lime, chopped up with the ginger that I put in there. Some people would say humongous amount of ginger. I think it's just about right. So there's my first 2 litres of water, and I'm going to brew my ginger beer in these bottles. So 2 litres, a second 2 litres, lovely. And actually the smell is delicious. It's a kind of limey, lemony kind of smell. I'm bored though, waiting for it all to go in my boiling pot. There it is. And for each bottle, a cup of sugar. So that's 2 cups of sugar in here. I'm going to stick this lot on the pan and on the stove, and it will boil, simmer away quite fiercely for about 15 minutes. So 15 minutes on the boil makes you a good strong tea. You can use lots of other combinations of fruit. You don't have to have a predominance of ginger. I'm just a bit of a masochist, that's all. And the thing I'm standing by phone on now, since Maureen got bored and doesn't like standing there taking videos of me. You would like to see, I'm sure, perfect for the job, is right there. Yes, very good. Right, so here we are. This is somewhat later in the day on account of the fact that we've been shopping down the tip and to a Labour Party meeting. So got a new band. There you go. This is called campaigning around here. There we are. And bucket is the next stage here, and I'm bringing over the pot with the 4 litres of water, 2 cups of sugar, and the lemon, the lime, and the boiled ginger. This is all going in the bucket now. New bucket. Everything. Hold on. Or at least everything that will come out. It's hand temperature. I know this because I put my hand in it and it didn't feel particularly hot or cold, so probably a little less than hand temperature. Then I'm going to inoculate it with some of the ginger bug. And the quantity doesn't seem to be that important. It's sort of a cupful. It's bubbling like mad. If I tilt me thing up there, it's bubbling away. entirely unsuccessful, really, that bit of photography. I don't want to lose my spoon and the camera at the same time, which is entirely likely. Don't want to plummet the camera into my bug. I'm sure that would be good for neither. Right, so about a cupful of this stuff, the liquid and the solid, not boiled but full of microorganisms going in there. Lovely. Now, if we were simply making non-alcoholic or hardly alcoholic ginger beer, we would just leave that to inoculate overnight and then bottle it. But I quite like it to be drier and more alcoholic than that. So a little bit of help from some brewer's yeast. Don't need a lot. Just for show, I have a spoon that says teaspoon on it. It reminds me that it's a teaspoon. Everything should be labelled in my house nowadays. There we go. Sprinkled over the top. 1 teaspoon of brewer's yeast. Maureen should have a label on her, so when I wake up, I know that it's her when I wake up. So that's going in there. A clean cloth, probably relatively clean, will be thrown over the top of that, and it'll just be left overnight to burble to itself. And then in the morning, we will strain it and put it in a couple of pop bottles for the next day. So I'll see you tomorrow. So here we are the next day. Take the cover off the bucket. Have a look in the bucket. See how frothy that is. So we have now got a mash that may well be taking us somewhere. And the place we take it to is, I've got the pot with a sieve on. I'm going to sieve out the liquid and squeeze to death the stuff that's left to get the last remnants of goodness out of it. And then, after it's settled for a while, we will bottle it. Smelling alcoholic. What you get? I said. How'd you get? And we'll squeeze it. I just squeeze it. Very sexy. The other thing you could do with this is to use a cloth, piece of muslin or an old nappy, one preferably that you've washed. And then you get most of the liquid out that way. This way is very pleasant. I shall carry on, you don't want to see this. Now we've squeezed all the goodness out of the mush that was left, and I I've had a lie down and recovered from that, bottling it. And these things are fantastic. The modern plastic pop bottle, great for brewing. So, funnel in bottle, and sometimes I just pour the whole thing in with Mrs. Morgan's help, but on this occasion I'm using a jug, measuring jug, pouring the contents of my pot as you can see, without getting it all over myself, which is something that does happen mostly. It's almost there. Now, the reason we're almost there is you don't go right to the top of the bottle. You leave a gap. And the reason you leave a gap is because this mixture is, relatively speaking, explosive, gaseous, and you will need to release the gases from time to time as it ferments. They call this process burping. I could do that myself sometimes. So on goes the lid, and watch this. Are you watching carefully? You squeeze the bottle. I haven't tightened the lid up at all, really. Just put it on loosely so that the liquid now goes to the top, and then screw it on. The little microbe typey thingies that are in there will carry on working, produce gases, carbon dioxide in particular, and the bottle will harden. And if you squeeze it and it moves, you know it's fine. If you squeeze it and it resists massively, feels like a piece of steel, you know it's got too much gas in it, and you just release the lid slightly to let out the gas, and then eventually you can squeeze it again until it's like this and tighten it up again. It's not an onerous job. Do that for 2 or 3 days. What I will do after 2 or 3 days is stick it in bottles, which I have all ready for that job. So there we are. That's done. And if you want to watch the other bottle being filled up in the same way, and then you better run over quickly because I'm not filming that. So you say to me, what if I don't like ginger? I can't understand why anybody might say that, but here we are. What if I don't like it? Well, you can make a fizzy other drink than ginger beer, alcoholic or non-alcoholic. And as an illustration, here we have a carton of cheap, 100% pure from concentrate, smooth orange juice. Any fruit juice is fine, just ensure it's got no preservatives in it, because that will just kill your yeast and defeat the object. So here we are, back with the pan, wooden spoon handle, and this time a half a litre of boiling water, thank you, and a cupful of sugar. stir that in to dissolve it in the boiling water. If necessary, pop it on the stove to dissolve it. Going very well here. Can't be bothered to show you in the thing because you've probably seen sugar dissolved in water sometime. Then pop in a couple of litres of juice. So we're making a basically an orangeade, and then we will make it an alcoholic orangeade. Choose your fruit. You'll use real fruit for this. Don't feel constrained by the easy way. I like easy ways of doing things. You just have to ask anybody. Here we go. Two litres, that's looking all right. So, there we are. That's it. I will show you inside. Nicely stir away. Put that back on employment law in practice. I found a use for my practitioners' textbooks. There we go. Now, nice temperature. Seems that 2 litres of juice and half a litre of boiling water give you more or less hand temperature. So if you wanted just to make a very pleasant fizzy drink, use the ginger bug. Hello, everybody. If you want to just make this alcoholic, bang a bit of yeast in. It's good to sprinkle it on the top. Not good to leave it in metal, so I shall wash my bucket out, pour it in the bucket, and then we'll see what that looks like tomorrow. Right, here we go then. So this is one of the bottles that has been burbling away now for 24 hours, and if you come in tightly, you can see the tiny bubbles there, but also there's a lot of pressure here. It's very tight, and if I ease off the pressure, then it starts to fizz and fizz, and tighten it up a bit so it doesn't fizz out all over the place. And what we have to do is let the carbon dioxide out sufficiently, because I'm going to then bottle it in one of these. And what I use is a sieve and a funnel. Put it in the neck, and when it's died down sufficiently, which might just about be now, it might not, it's coming up the neck. We don't want it to be lost to us over the counter, so we shall wait a bit while it dies down and then fill this up. But in the meantime, here's one that we made a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to drink this one. And you can probably tell that this is going to fizz as well, like that. Look at it fizz. Get a bit closer, let's. So we'll let that out a bit at a time, so I actually get some in a glass and then drink it. and pouring it in while it's still fermenting so that it gets fizzy in the bottle. When you think it's dry enough, then you put it in the fridge and slow down the fermentation, but otherwise you just keep it out in a warm place, room temperature, and that will keep it nicely fermenting. These Grolsch bottles are perfect, and that will do us for the time being, I think. Oh. Lovely jubbly. I'll do the rest of these without your help, but let's see how this is doing. Still fizzing up. I'll probably drink that without your help as well, but before we go, this is the orange juice, and we'll see how that's doing, because this will be bottled into this particular bottle once it's been when its contents have gone into the little bottles. So here we go. Have a look at that. Frothy or what? So, and if you like oranges, smells of orange. There you go. Very nice. Thank you very much, Maury.